now. All right. Who wants to start?
Maybe I can start.
Please.
The migration we did to the new Android was missing something. We can no longer use implicit broadcast receivers, which we do in some cases, and we can no longer use services on the background. So now it only causes a problem with the push, and I'm fixing it. But I saw some more places where we use those kind of things, and we should address it. For now, I'm only doing the push. There's something with I think the audio player that should be addressed. And can't remember. I saw another one. So I will be working on that in the today and tomorrow maybe. And if someone can assist me with that, I will be grateful.
So be grateful to what exactly? To the new Android P, you mean?
We should change some of our code not to use implicit broadcasters and services that run on background.
By the way, Gil, what is the status with? I don't know if I missed the conference, maybe, but I haven't heard in a while. Like the menu and everything that it was going to be done, and the navigation and everything.
Yeah, now I'm on this. This bug is more urgent, so I'm focusing on that now. The plan is to release next week, but you know.
The navigation next week.
Yeah.
Or what? Okay. Yeah. If you need any help with the navigation, I'm happy to help.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. So maybe I'll thank you later. Thank you.
You're talking about the issue where push notifications don't work for.
It's not that it doesn't work; it causes crashes on the app.
On Android 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
I think you should just
That's expected behavior on Android, isn't it?
any Android developer.
Okay. Or reviews, whatever you need.
Okay. Thanks, Gil. Who is next? Atanas,
Yeah, I can go.
I can go.
okay. Atanas, you want to go last today?
Well, I don't know if it makes sense because the code isn't merged yet.
Okay.
And there's a not really a blocker, but it's some code repetition that I still haven't figured out how to solve.
Okay.
So
Let's save it to last, and we'll review just what you wrote today on the channel.
Sometimes I think it's good to talk about it. Maybe someone will have some insights that we didn't think about.
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So Javier's one of the Javier's, I think I heard.
Javi, go first.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, what I've been working on for the past I don't know, about a week is another login plugin with Toolbox Cloud Pass, which is like Adobe Primetime, and I'm finally done with it. But our client is using the Applicaster player. And I know I've asked before in the Android channel, and several people replied to me, like Atanas and Elad, about if I want to do the player contract and use Applicaster player, you have to kind of create a new plugin and do a wrapper around Applicaster player. But I really don't understand why we have to do this every time. Why can't we have, and this is a question I need to ask the SAP team, And I was kind of talking to Ren about it yesterday, but I'll talk about it in more detail later with him. Which is basically, why don't we just have the player contract in the Applicaster player, which basically says if a login plugin exists, show it before launch and have it do whatever flow it needs to do. I mean, it's all based on callbacks. So call the login player, the login plugin. The login plugin does whatever it needs to do to authenticate and just simply sends back, hey, if you need to pass back an object with maybe a URL or a token, it could do that. If it doesn't need to pass back anything, just say successful. It could do that as well. And then that way we don't have to keep wrapping the Applicaster player, which is a maintenance like nightmare. Then every single time something new happens in the Applicaster player, you have to go to your plugin and update it as well. I just don't like that idea.
I can explain why this was done if you want.
Yeah.
Because I was there when the decision was made. Well, not exactly there. I wasn't on the initial meeting, but then I was on the second meeting. I wasn't invited on the first. So there was a debate whether we should be adding the login function in the plugin or in the infrastructure. And everybody wanted to add it in the infrastructure. But it was a young API, and I think we weren't sure about how to do things. So somebody added it to the player, and then everybody started adding it in the player. It's not a good explanation, but this is what happened. And like I think that we may not have been brave enough to add it in the SDK, and that's not final. We can add it to the SDK. The only problem now is that everybody will have to remove this logic from their plugins.
Right. Well, the way I pictured it happening is to have the same contract you have in your plugin player. I don't know exactly, which one you guys are using, but for example, we're using like in the Uyala player, we're gonna implement it as well, and we're just implementing the simple contract that uses callbacks, simple callbacks for login, So I don't know why adding it to the player that exists in the SDK, like I don't think it's gonna change anything for anybody else, because if you have the plugin if you have this contract in your pluggable player already, you don't need to take it off. You just keep using that player plugin. And then for everybody else, they can use Applicaster player. Yeah, no problem. So it won't interfere with each other. And if you don't have login at all, that method will never be called, because what I'm imagining this thing would do is when the player opens, it checks, is there a plugin of type login? Then attempt to do this. If not, it does nothing.
I don't mind doing this. There's something slightly inelegant about, in the same way that we did for having the login contract in the plugins. I think the most beautiful case would be if you have it for everybody in one place in the SDK, both the Applicaster player and the plugins. But what you're suggesting is fine as well. I mean, I don't have anything against it. The only issue is that I think that the player is one of the few things that don't really have an owner. So I don't know. Probably we will have to. Many people will have to collaborate and make the decision. That's the only thing.
Yeah. That's why I wanted.
Atanas, it's not only with the player. Like what it should. I briefly heard about something Manudi, and I kind of agree with him. I mean, there should be an owner of our APIs. So all of our plugins which have pay APIs, and this is exactly what I meant, Javi, this is the exact use case that you mean, should have an owner saying, okay, an API should look like this in both platforms to make sure it's consistent, to make sure that we're not breaking things on a, backwards, to make sure that APIs make sense, to make sure that we get feedback from people and we can update those APIs, and to have ownership of those APIs, which they like with all the plugins, especially if we're going to have everything pluggable. So not so much specific maybe with the player as well, of course, But especially with the as you say, Javi, like who take the decision of say, let's remove this from the player, let's make it in the infrastructure, make sure we have because the plugin is pretty curious because it's not only in the playback, but it can be also in the startup of the app. So it could be multiple places, or like the other one that we talked about, Javi, like why in the startup we can only have one type of plugin in the startup.
Yeah.
Why can't we have a chain of plugins? Like, and then have a like a order between them. So you have a splash screen where you can show like a user guide for the user, and then another plugin which is the login plugin, which shows this after that plugin, which does the login and authentication and everything. And then you can have the onboarding in the one before, and then you have another one that it launches there, and then it follows. So in that sense, yeah, I do agree that Atanas, in the sense that ownership of having these things, it will be actually great to have ownership of. Especially, I think the APIs makes a lot of sense.
One gotcha having Miami is that the player, the Applicaster player, has some state machine that, if I remember correctly, nobody dares to touch. So this may be, you may have to touch it if you implement it in this way.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Atanas, as well. Why do we have a Applicaster player in the, like by default? Why is not a plugin?
For historical reasons that...
the SDK, the player was written before the plugin was even a thing. That's the answer. And once the plugin infrastructure was introduced for players, nobody took upon themselves to create a player plug for the Applicaster SDK.
Yeah, I meant because the reason why is because we got a report from one of our clients, and Javi, I don't know if you actually shared it, but they gave a pretty thorough report about their application, and one of the biggest issues they had, for example, regarding permissions. We had like 1 trillion of permissions, which for their specific case was not needed for anything. And maybe those permissions are coming from, let's say, like that's what I say, the thing with the feed or the crossmates or in our player, they're not using any of those, and they're getting everything.
For almost every feature that is baked into the SDK and not as a plugin, that might be delivering your app. For our case in ProSieben, we have a player plug, but we also deliver the standard player code. And imagine the amount of collisions that we have between the libraries that our player uses and the ones that the ProSieben player uses. So it's a headache, but it's something that nobody has taken upon themselves to do because it's really in nobody's agenda. And it's probably a difficult task, as Atanas referred to it, as a state machine that nobody dares to touch.
It's not only that. It's I came upon some like really old players that we distribute with, like every time we ship an app, we send these very old things, like ancient players that have been there and just nobody wants to remove because they're tightly coupled to the SDK.
Yeah, but you know what? Now that we're talking about making the standard player plugin, that would be amazing because of what you said about collisions. Almost every single Android player that's worth anything is based off of EXO player. And then a client wants you to do Kaltura, or a client wants you to do Uyala, or a client wants you to do God knows what else. And they're all based on different versions of EXO player, and you will always collide against the standard Applicaster player version. So you always want it to either be higher or exactly the same. If not, something will happen to your plugin, and that's no good. We need to remove that so then you could take off Applicaster and put whatever the hell you want. But anyway, that's a whole different thing. That spawned into, I need to figure out how to launch a login from the Applicaster player, guys. So I will tackle this issue.
By the way, I think that the player is the only remaining component that doesn't have an owner. Like, it needs some love, and like, who will take it?
Yeah.
Volunteers?
Let me look at the code and I'll let you know. Okay, guys. Well, that's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Javier.
Yeah, for me, yes, I'm mainly focused in two things. One of them is the FIFA, which is pretty pain to deal with because there is a lot of like client. There's 3 clients with this, with multiple implementations, multiple screens, and like trillion emails every day. And so yeah, I have pretty much finished most of the screens. I have like a couple of like headaches with a couple of direct API calls that I need to do, and for some reason they are not consistent in their like the way they're writing their keys, and so I need to. I was scratching my head this morning how to fix that. But so in general, yeah. So the FIFA SDK will be done for Cannes, Televisa, and TYC. And so yeah, and then also working with Avi for be able to handle all the player logic and be able to actually launch. I think the guys they propose a way to launch different multiple players in the same app, so have different players within the same application. So we can have the case where you can have like the Applicaster SDK, the Applicaster player, the YouTube player, and for example, in this case, we need a third, which is called the Viva player, but for FIFA. It only works with FIFA related content. So I think they did a proposal, and I don't know if he will actually present it in this forum, but it will be actually interesting to share that. Otherwise, I'll share that with you guys next time as well. And then also working with something is called Kantar Media, which is like a watermarking plugin solution for. We might turn it into something that we can package. We don't know yet, but anyway, it's like a way for making clients listen to watermarks in a stream, for example, in the TV, and then you can do things whatever you want to do. Show a pop-up or give the user some points or whatever you want to do. So working on those ones, especially if FIFA is taking a lot more than I expected. So yeah, working mainly on that.
All right, cool. Thanks. Who's next?
I can go next.
Please.
So I'm working on the audio player. I'm about to finish. To push the pull request for it, and it's gonna make a few changes to the player contract. So unfortunately, you will have to align with these changes, and that's it basically.
All right, thanks. Who's next?
I can go next.
Yeah.
So basically, last 2 days I'm spending on Angular, so not very much Android stuff. But before I've added a couple of the new React Native cell components. So we got loads of them now. And later on, whenever Gil will be ready, I will be happy to help with the 2-level navigation menu. Yeah, I think this is it for me.
All right. What have we got left? We have Pablo.
I think I can go next if possible.
No, yeah, please.
Okay, so for now, unfortunately for me, I'm working on our inline player, and it's really messy there. I'm working on giving support for our inline player to play pre-rolls with the ability to split, the keys. Like for example, if you want to play in general, like splitting the keys for our pre-roll support in the extensions. For example, if you want to play a pre-roll in our full screen, but not in our inline, and if you want to play a pre-roll for a live vote, but not for a regular vote, so you can do that. So I'm also in the final phases. I'm facing a lot of issues with our inline players. So speaking of players and making them pluggable and so on, we just need to remember that we have 2 players. Like you have our full screen player and our inline player, and also maybe I'm not familiar with the audio player, so I guess we have maybe 3 players. So it's a big mess. I hope that someday, like maybe someone can take ownership and maybe like finally we can clean this, like remove this inline player and, you know, extend our full screen to support inline behavior or something like that, because the code there that was included, like I don't know when, 1 year ago or something like that, it's a big mess that, you know, that causes a lot of issues, a lot of bugs, a lot of unknowns. It's a mess. So for now, I'm working on that, and I wanted to raise something with Gil. Gil, can you hear me? Tabak, Gil.
What? Can you say again?
Sorry, I was talking.
I want you to explain the pull request, the Git pull request. You know, the pull request like, you know, how to make a pull request when like updating SDK models, like you explained to me.
Yes.
Because I'm not familiar with that. I don't know who is and who's not. So maybe you can like agree on. I don't know. Like, can you explain like?
So first thing, Shimon did the wiki for that. It's on the Zap Android wiki.
Okay. How can I access this wiki?
And GitHub, like the wiki,
Okay.
GitHub wiki. I can just I'm pretty sure that it's on Zap Android, but if not, it's on the Applicaster SDK repository.
Okay. So this wiki shows what is the pattern for creating, you know, a pull request commits or messages?
Specifically for updating the SDK. So the thing is that the QA does not see the commits we do on the SDK. So we should, everything that we change on the SDK, we should reflect on the relevant pull request on Zap Android. So this is one. And like it means that on the description, you should have a link to the SDK pull request that you are including. And the second thing is that like the title of the pull request is the title of the squashed commit. So you need to describe what happens also in the changes you did on the SDK, because this is like the base of our changelog. So this is the main things that are important. And in more details, you have the wiki there, which explains like step by step what needs to be done.
Okay, cool. So I hope that everyone is familiar with that, so we can be like consistent with our like commit messages and so on. So
yeah, I see that it happens lots of times that people push things to the SDK and then do not update Zap Android, and then the other one that updates the SDK needs to do the work and copy paste what they wrote. So yeah, it sucks. So it's
okay.
a good point that you like. It's good that you raised it, because yeah, we should.
Okay, so this is it for me. Nothing else to update for now.
I have a comment, Tarek, regarding the inline player interface.
Yeah.
It is, I wouldn't say it is a mess, but it can get a mess because the interface is not very convenient. So you need to add infrastructure about a lot of stuff. For example, some things that may be happening in the activity. So if you want to check how we implemented the Squadio inline player, it's there are many things, but I would say that it is
on the current inline player. Is it based on the Google GMF inline that we have today?
No, it's a whole different thing.
So no, so what I'm talking about is the GMF inline player that we use as the default.
Yeah, it's a we have three different players in our
I see. The default player.
Inline player and full sync player. So for the audio player, we're using a third-party lib, like it's called PlayScore or something like that. which is I think it's used the Exoplayer.
Yeah, I know that
Yeah.
the audio player is using Exoplayer. I know that
Yeah.
Elad Kariti, like, if I'm not mistaken, he developed it or something like that. But yeah, we do have 3 players, but 2 of them should not be like, we should not have like inline player, which is a very different beast than our like for example, if you want to develop a new, like, for example, like Javier said, he wants a login plugin for, a specific functionality for a player. If he needs it on the inline player, he sort of needs to develop it twice, which we had to do with many features. For example, for our pre-rolls, I have pre-rolls for our full screen using a plugin, and have pre-rolls now using for our inline, which I've worked on twice, which is crazy.
I see now. I'm not familiar to that API, so
yeah, you better not, like, it's a headache. So yeah.
So I've added to the player contract methods such as play, pause, stop, and stuff like that. So eventually we can use this method instead of the play inline, stop inline, attach inline, and all that.
Yeah.
So if you implement the play, you can just use whatever view you want, full screen or inline. It doesn't matter what view you are playing on. So it's a start.
Yeah, but the code base itself for the inline, the GMF player, is a huge. It's like like, I don't know, 100 something files that was added at once, and it's like
How many?
108. One pull request.
One pull request, 108 files, like copy paste from like some Google repository, and one. It's crazy, like, to understand how it works, and like you will have gray hair like in 1 week. Like, it's crazy. So I'm dealing with that now, and like every like I still do not understand. I raised this topic many times, like also in Tech Talks, also with our managers and so on. I don't know why still today we are not like, we don't have like one, like they, like, for example, for iOS, they have like one player for inline and full screen, which is the way it should be. Like we can wrap our full screen player inside of a fragment, and it can act as an inline. It's not like it's a development of 1-2 weeks, for example. I don't know, but I don't understand why up until today we still have 2 players, and we still manage 2 players and introduce many bugs. It's crazy. So
I will tell you why. We don't have refactoring engineers at all. Like, everyone is doing new shiny features. No one's refactoring.
I will happily refactor this, but
I'm more than happy to do that. But
they will give me green light to do so, because
but I have to do
now it sounds like me.
Okay, guys, so probably there was a reason that it was done in this way. Whether this reason was good or not, that's another question. So, like, I think we should just plan it and give it some love. Somebody takes ownership and fix it. That's it.
Yeah.
We don't.
The problem is that everyone is afraid taking ownership, because once you want. You don't want to always be the one that deals with bugs and new features and so on. So this is why that territory managers are afraid to take ownership on a player. So on anything.
Let's just say in general that it shouldn't be anybody's responsibility. It should be everybody's responsibility. We don't have a mechanism to do it currently, but this effort should not be on any of the regions, and this is exactly the reason why it hasn't been done so far.
But how can we make it happen? This is a question.
Yeah.
Is it with Woody?
I've been raising this for quite some time.
But Tarek, we had the discussion with Woody. You remember?
Yeah, but I don't know, because like I can't explain how many hours and hours I have wasted like fixing stuff and developing stuff that we already have it on the full screen. Like why develop it twice? But
Yeah, I agree. I feel you.
Yeah, I mean, that one thing that you can do is just, if you think that is worth it, propose it, for both your region and, the SAP team, I guess, and see if you can actually work on that thing. Like, for example, I know Livio is
I did propose it for my region, but I was declined because I have money like urgent, like, the priorities are, it's not, yeah. Okay, that's it.
All right. Thank you, Tarek.
All right.
All right. Who's next? Pablo, do you have anything?
No, I'm just listening.
All right. Alex, you want to go next? I think Alex has frozen. Oh, there you are.
I'm here, guys. Hi.
Hey.
Over past months, I think I was working on ads, and as of today, I introduced the UI Builder configurable ads per screen. So now, per every single screen, we can configure the interstitial and the banner. And also, I've added a new component, which is a banner component. So now we can have even more ads. We can just inject them in between other components. And as a part of this ticket, there was also another interesting feature, which was basically injecting ads between the elements of lists and grid, which was an interesting task. So we got even more ads now. So some of those changes are already available to be configurable on UI Builder. Some are hidden away for now, as those changes didn't pass the test yet. Like, it's still in testing, but I'm confident by the end of this week it should be available for everyone to play and have fun. But apart from that, that's basically only task I was doing, and I guess for next month I'll be still working on more ads. So that's an interesting shift.
Alex, I have a question for you. Can the interstitial between screens can be configured with templates, or can it be like done using templates, or is it UI Builder only?
It's UI Builder only because we pass the add ID number in UI Builder. But basically, I guess you can figure out how to inject it, I guess, because that's something that is that can be part of the metadata too.
Tarek, theoretically, for any app, there is the capability of introducing interstitials between screens for layout.
Well, for the templates, I guess there was a data source plugin. Like, we could have passed this ads through the data source plugin in the XML form, if I'm not wrong.
If I have the data source app that is using a template, I can like have this feature.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a data source. It's part of the CMS configuration, as far as I remember.
No, there is we can configure ads on Applicaster too. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But also, it can be a part of XML of DSP, right?
Yeah, I know that our like Atom feeds support like having ad banners, if I'm not mistaken.
And they're also supposed to support the interstitials, but I think I've been told that they're not working, and one of my next tasks would be looking into that.
Yeah, all right, cool. Because we have a client that wants this, so I will keep me updated.
And who was that talking? I'm sorry, I can barely see my screen.
That was Tarek.
Oh, Tarek. Yes, Tarek. All right, and yeah, I guess in that case I'll get in touch with you in like in half an hour if you have time, so we can talk about it more.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, thank you. Atanas, I think we've come to you now.
Within 5 minutes.
All right. Gil, I think I have the solution. It's there's only one object and one interface, so I'm going to create stubs and just add the configuration back to main and add the stubs in the different repositories. So I think it will work.
But we don't know the problem. We have the solution.
Are you up for? I mean, I've got a headache. Like I've been doing this the whole morning. It's. Are we going to try to merge it? Like, would you have time?
Are we going to try to merge? Sorry.
Yeah. Are we going to try to merge it after the talk, or maybe wait for tomorrow?
Let's talk after the meeting.
What is that? Sorry, I didn't.
Let's talk after that and decide. I mean, if it's only the pull request that you can, so you can do that. But don't you have other pull requests?
It is the Zap Android pull request is the last one. I think there's only one request with repetition. So yeah, let's see. Let's catch up.
Yeah. So we want to introduce it.
Do you want to give a short introduction of what you wrote today in the channel?
Yes. Sorry, guys. So let me share my screen, and I will walk everybody through the pull request. Can you see my screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm adding the Amazon. So I'm adding a new dimension, which is a vendor, Amazon versus Google. So it would enable us to publish apps in the Amazon store, initially for TVs, Amazon TV, but then eventually with Amazon tablet as well. So it's 35 files changed, but like it's surprisingly easy. This is the SDK. I will walk you guys through it first, and then through the I'll do the same for the generic repo Zap Android. So I'm declaring here dimensions. The vendor dimension, it's a new dimension, and there are four flavors: mobile, TV, Google, and Amazon. And some Google libraries are compiled only for the mobile implementation. For example, the Chromecast, because there's no point in having Chromecast on TV. TVs are Chromecasts. So and also this Google. So this GCM, push notifications, ads, and Firebase, they are not allowed on Amazon. So it is only we only use that for the Google flavor. Then I had to add this Groovy thingy because this new mobile Google API and mobile API weren't added to Bintray, so I had to implement that here, and it's working. And then this this thing here, it will compile all the different combinations of dimensions. They're full for now. So we will have mobile Amazon, mobile Google, TV Amazon, and TV Google. And however, it will upload only one SDK to Bintray, and it will be the mobile Google SDK. So a sample release will create, I'm actually gonna show you. For ARs. And then it will create a symbolic link to the mobile Google release AR, and then it will upload it to Bintray. So it means that the library on Bing Tray will only be for mobile Google, which is a bit problematic because you might need features that are specific for TV or Amazon. But like ideally, we should access these features through interfaces in the main SDK. So the way the code is arranged into folders, you can see the main, it is used by everybody. And then we have Google and Amazon. They are complementing each other. And then we have the other dimension, mobile and TV. So then this is the class that is the blocker. I had to repeat a lot of code, so this is not gonna, I'm gonna change it. The problem is that this thing is the problem. It has a dependency on Google, on a Google library. So the way I'm gonna deal with that, I'm just gonna create empty implementations of this and then move this file back to main, where it will be used by everybody. So then the next thing, a lot of stubs, empty implementations, pretty straightforward. And yeah, these are, I have been moving classes from the main to Google folder. And a few issues regarding the manifest. Manifest, contrary to other files, manifests are merged. So I had to put one manifest, baseline manifest, and I had to put the deltas, the differences, into each flavor. So in the end, I had everything that I wanted merged. And yeah, that's it. Do you have any questions so far?
Atanas,
Yes.
what is the difference between the Google flavor and the mobile flavor?
Okay, so the mobile flavor means something that you, for example, you can have a mobile phone or a tablet. But once you have the tablet, it can be, for example, a Nexus tablet or a Samsung tablet, which is Google, or Kindle Fire tablet, which is Amazon. Yeah, so they're both mobile, but one of them is Google and the other one is Amazon. We don't support this yet fully, but it will take it is a little effort to add support for it. Basically, it's just disabling Chromecast because Chromecast is dealt with on the TV mobile dimension, meaning that for mobile Amazon, it will be included, and it can't be included because it's not allowed by Amazon. And the other issue is on the Zap Android, and it is one of the templates. Currently, we have 3 templates. One of them for the manifest, one of them is for the main manifest, the other one is for mobile, and the other one is for TV. The mobile Amazon will be using this manifest, and it has some things that aren't allowed by Google. Basically, this, for example, is not allowed by by Amazon, sorry. This permission. There's an Amazon service, and if you upload your APK, the Amazon service is searching your manifests and your APIs, and it is telling you you have this problem, and you have to fix it before you can upload your apps on Amazon Store. So these, yeah. But like we can add it, and we can add support for Amazon Fire if we need to. So it's not a big deal. And any other question, or shall I continue with the? Okay, so I'll just continue with the other. Okay. Okay, so it can't merge it automatically. Oh, here, that's what I'm looking for. Cool. So obviously, it is pointing to an SDK, which is not a. I need to update that. Zaproot, it shouldn't be pointing to Zaproot. So let me show you something here. So this is the top level build Gradle that is inserted in the project. And when you create flavors, you need to create them for all dependencies that are local, like something that's not Maven, for example. For example, we need to create to add these flavors to root. We need to add it to crossfeeds and a few other projects, including the view pager indicator. It's a very inelegant thing to do. So I did this thing here. We don't need to add these flavors or dimensions to any of those projects. They will be added automatically by this thing here. And this is a variant filter. This is when you build your projects locally or when they're built remotely, it will check what the store and the platform are, and then it will filter out all the variants that you're not interested in. So if your Zap project is configured to be Amazon Mobile, then or Amazon TV, then it will filter out all the other variants, and only Amazon TV will be built. Yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to show you is I think I have them here actually. So this is build Gradle of the generic. I need to add these dimensions here because of that. I can't add it automatically because I need to compile epoxy only for Google flavors. So these are some other stops. Also the Android manifest exercise, we have it here as well. Like these don't have to be here. And in the template helper, I added some convenience variables to get the flavor, the store, and the device target from the environment file. So this is when you run rate prepare workspace. It is taking these variables from the environment file, and like the environment file is what you guys create on Zap, or what the project managers create on Zap. Then there's the build Gradle of the app level. So this is another interesting thing. Our scripts have these tasks: assemble mobile debug, assemble mobile release, assemble TV debug, and assemble TV release. However, they don't exist anymore. Like you have assemble mobile Google debug, assemble mobile Amazon debug, assemble mobile Google release, assemble mobile Amazon release. So I created shortcuts. So when the current scripts are trying to execute these tasks, they will execute the task that you are interested in by this depends on declaration, and then create a shortcut to the task, to the concrete task. And these are two methods for creating the shortcut. Basically, I'm creating a symbolic link to the APK and a symbolic link to the mapping module. to the mapping file. This is for backwards compatibility purposes, and it's working. I tested it the other day. So it's groovy stuff, literally. And that's pretty much it. Normally, I wouldn't have expected to. Yes.
What?
Why am I using what? Sorry. Yes, because I need to. So like, okay, I want to run assemble mobile release. I want to do it because I want to release a mobile app. However, I don't have a mobile flavor. I have either mobile Amazon or mobile Google. So if I have mobile Amazon, let's do mobile Google. If I have mobile Google, then depends on is assemble mobile Google release. So it is building an APK with assemble mobile Google release, and then it is creating a symbolic link to this APK, and it is calling it just like the one that would have been created with assemble mobile release before. And then there's also the mapping file. Hockey is taking the APK and the mapping file, and it is uploading them to their backend. So maybe I can show the result here. Yeah. So this I created with this script. Like I hooked with SSH and I tweaked the branches. This is what I got. Did I answer your question? Because I'm not sure if I understood it.
Yeah, I think you did. Just like you don't use the store parameter directly, but you build the command that you run is like the old one, correct? Like the mobile device, and
yeah.
The store version.
Yes, there was a reason why I didn't use it. Let me try to remember it. I actually use it here.
Why
platform?
Why just call the new... okay, now I remember why you didn't change the Gradle wrapper command.
The Gradle wrapper?
Like you did it because the circuit will run Gradle assemble mobile release.
Yes, yeah.
You didn't want to change that, right?
Yes, so what change did I do on Circle? No, there's no Circle here. So the script that we have for Circle is hard-coded. We don't keep it in version control. So I had to tweak this so that it...
What do you mean the script we have for Circle is not there yet? It is?
No, it will work with the script.
No, but the script is in the repository for sure. It's on the script CI.
No, let me show it to you.
When we invoke from Zap, we cannot specify.
Can you get a bit closer, Gil? That is really hard to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, when we invoke build from Zap, the API that we use with Circle doesn't allow us tags, but only, okay? So it means that we always use the release branch to build. Release or master, depends if it's like a development build or release. So it doesn't matter now if you create an SDK that was created half a year ago, or the latest SDK, you will use the same configuration file, which is the one that lies on the release branch. Okay. So we want to someday move to the new API, but it will take some time. So in the meanwhile, we should do these manipulations.
And this will affect the plugins as well, right? When we develop or not?
No, because plugins are like, you don't have flavors in plugins.
No.
No, but when we develop with the, I mean, at least internally, you know, with the source code.
There's one affected plugin, the Google Analytics plugin, but we're gonna fix it. It is affected because it is using Firebase util, which is specific for the Google flavor. So we hid the Firebase util behind another util that is pointing to the relevant util depending on the flavor. So
hard sentence, man.
That
is calling a util that is behind what?
Let me show you the code. So I have the Google Analytics plugin, and there's something that that Amazon doesn't like about it, and it is okay. So this is my fix. Let me take you to the current Google Analytics plugin.
What Javier meant is if we should add like flavors to the plugins, because when we depend on a plugin, we don't use NAR, we use implement project.
I think that we shouldn't depend. The plugin should know nothing about flavors. That's what I think.
We use the plugin as an open. Sorry, don't. Oh,
no, they're closed in like the apps. They're closed. It says open on development.
Yeah, only the submodules are open. Sorry.
Yeah.
So this Firebase util declaration, this is the problematic one. Sorry guys, like it's I think we don't have a lot of time. So I'm using Yeah,
I have a quick question regarding this excluding Amazon. Have you tried the Android preprocessor?
Wait, sorry guys, I really need to go, but we have, you know, I'll take a look later at the video. But thanks, Satanas, for the explanation. So, and
you're welcome, and thanks for listening.
Same for me.
Later.
Guys. Thank you.
Yeah, so basically what I was asking, the Android preprocessor is the thing which gives you ability to, on the compilation time, turn off the part of the, modify the code itself. So Gradle can modify the code when you're compiling. So you can exclude the Amazon or Google or whatever you need on the compilation time.
I think I know what you mean, but like I preferred. So do you mean that you can specify the different sources for the different flavor in the Gradle file?
You don't have to have different sources. You can have one source and put the def. Then you include everything what you need. Like if there's Google, then include all the Googles.
Let's catch up about this later. I'm not sure what you. Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, we're running kind of out of time, and we have the EU sync meeting now. So I guess Satanas will wrap up with that. And if you have any follow-ups from your code review with Gil, maybe.
Did you see the thing?
Please be patient when we do the merge. When we merge the whole thing, please be patient and don't sweat too much.
Get dressed.
We'll try. Message. All right. Thank you, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.